Hello humans, today I wanted to talk about this guy right here, which I picked up at a local trip to KMS of all places. Um, this is a Milwaukee 4-inch tradesman fixed blade knife. And the main thing that drew me to this right here is that it was almost in my ultra budget category. If you're not part of the, oh no it is, if you're part of the club, it's essentially $26, which for 4-inch fixed blade is a pretty attractive option. Now, I do have two other Milwaukees that I've been using not very often, to be honest. In particular, the small one is kind of uncomfortable, but one second, let me grab it. This guy right here, I don't remember what they call it, fastback switch flick or something like that. This is a super fun knife to use, and 7CR, I mean, it's not a great steal, but at $17 I think I paid for it, I am more than happy. I can't do it. This is just a bad angle. There we are. I'm more than happy with this knife at $17. This is quite a fun toy. So as a result, I am quite excited to see what they can do with an actual proper fixed blade. Right off the bat, we have the handle is outside of this god-awful fucking plastic packaging. We have a lanyard loop, and this does feel crisp enough to strike fire steel. I will be testing that, but that does feel crisp enough to strike a fire steel. And then we have like a hard molded plastic for the actual handle itself. We have our obligatory wear safety goggles thing, which is just funny. Plastic reduces risk of injury. Always wear eye protection. Don't bend it. Yeah, that makes sense. No shit. Engineered by Milwaukee Tools, professionally made in Taiwan. That means fucking nothing. It doesn't matter where it was engineered. Taiwan is not China. That is an important thing to note. Labor in Taiwan is more expensive and is, generally speaking, a higher standard. So I do actually quite like seeing made in Taiwan over made in China, but it is still worth noting this was not, in fact, made in Brookfield, Wisconsin. I don't know why. I always kind of figured Milwaukee Tools would be in the actual fucking city of Milwaukee, but they're not. That's a thing. Everything's in Spanish because this is an American company and not French, which I'm actually more comfortable with. Restez afflué plus longtemps. Okay, so the second set of information and everything is French, but I don't know. It's a bit of a culture shock for me. I'm Canadian. Our two languages are English and French, and then about 17 million indigenous languages, which is actually super cool of our government, but not a thing that I'm going to get into right now. So seeing Spanish being put in before French is just a little bit interesting, a little bit different for me, which is pretty cool. You have a lifetime limited warranty, which is going to cover defects and nothing else. Full tank construction, and we can see, I'm assuming that's a mock-up of how the blade is under here, hopefully, which is pretty cool. And then we have our plastic sheath. This is going to suck. Well, I could be wrong. It could be not awful, but initial impressions are not great. It's in that plastic clamshell packaging that absolutely everybody hates, so I love these little knives. Konga Forgework Micro Companion Buoy, in case you were wondering. Great little guy. Super fun. I do need to get some WD-40 sandpaper and just clean it off. I've been using it out in the rain. That just went flying off my desk. Not sure where that went. I'm going to have to find that later. But that should be enough. I need to cut down here too. Wait, there's got to be a better way than this. What's the better way? That's a question everybody should always ask themselves when doing something. Is there a better way to do this? And if so, what would that better way be? There's so many goddamn problems. Mostly with engineers. Okay, so that. Yes, I could, at this point, just Hercules it, but I'm actually trying to prove a point here, which is this particular style of packaging is dangerous and is really stupid. Just sell shit in a cardboard box. If it can't be in a cardboard box, do what Morkaniv does and have a little plastic piece on top of cardboard. Just it's so much better in so many ways. It does give me our sheath first, which is fun. Oh, that's heavier than I expected. I don't know why I expected it to be lighter. I mean, it weighs basically the same much as the package does. Duh. But in hand... Oh, it's the balance. That's what it is. This thing is pretty blade heavy. Oh, yeah. That hard plastic is not going to get annoying at all. A little bit of spew. Just from the molding up front. We have this bead, vapor, whatever blasted finish on the blade. And it's actually... I can feel it, like it has a texture to it, which is a bad thing because it means shit's gonna stick to this. And I know it is a stainless blade, but stainless literally just means that it stains less, and keeping shit on your blade is how you rust stainless steels. We have... It's inconsistent in almost the exact same way on both sides, but I think it is an inconsistently ground blade and a roughly ground blade. God damn, hold up. If you can, you should do that with a belt or something similar. I just don't have one on hand right now. Okay, they took that. This thing had a massive burr out of the box. Here's the tricky thing, right? This is 25 Canadian dollars, which is not a very large amount of money by any stretch of the imagination. So it is difficult a little bit to criticize it, but at the same time, that puts it in the same sort of class as like the Morkaniv basic. Actually, this is more expensive than a Morkaniv basic in Canada, or where I am in Canada. Which means that, as far as I'm concerned, it should be held to the same manufacturing standards, and unfinished things like having an actual burr on your edge when you ship it is a problem. Other than that, a little bit of a finishing blemish right there. We have a saber height. Is it flat or is it... It looks like a saber height hollow grind, which the blade stock itself is thin enough it shouldn't prove to be an issue, but we will see that with time. We have a swedge and a drop point blade, which is pretty good. And there's just another little bit of unfinishedness. The edge, like the beveled edge, actually comes out further than the end of the drop point, so you have like a little rhino's horn out there near the tip, which for 25 bucks, you have the bones of a very good knife. So far, I'm not very impressed with it, but a big part of that is just little QC things, and cheaping out on QC is a way to get costs down. It's not a great way to get costs down, and it provides an inconsistent experience for consumers, which is really annoying when you're trying to review a product, but there you go. Jimping does actually feel pretty good, both back here in the plastic and here on the blade. It is grabbing my thumb very successfully. And you have this little pinch tab for this type of hold, pinch hold, which is nice. I mean, I think you'd be better served having a scallop there instead of a pinch tab, but that's just my opinion, and I know people who would go either way on that, so. Okay, let's give this edge a feel. This is gonna immediately prove to be incredibly inconsistent because you can like see my thumb getting hooked on burrs and shit. Yeah. This is unfinished. Like the actual edge, nobody broke the burr on it. It's easy enough to do. Take a belt, take a strop, whatever, and just clean up the edge, but that's a disappointing thing because it is a sign of bad things to come. Now we grab a piece of paper and let's see what this actual edge is like out of the box. Oh yeah, you can... I mean, it is sharp enough to cut through paper. Like the final apex of that edge is fine, but there's definitely places where the burr is just doing more work than the actual edges, which is decidedly unfortunate, but I'm not going to know for sure until I get a strop to this. And to be honest, it's cutting paper out of the box, even if it's not going to stay that way because the burr's going to do its thing and figure itself out. That's something. Not all knives do that. It's a very low bar to set. Okay. I'm going to need to get more rubber soon. But let's give this a go. Yeah, I mean, it's fine. Oh my god. You can see the problem that I was having before with the texturing. There's bits of the rubber actually just sticking to this finish. There's a little bit of shouldering, but it's not as bad as I would have expected looking at it. And, I mean, it's quite a thin blade. It's going to go through rubber material without too much difficulty, but as you can see, it is sticking. Like, you make a cut, and it actually feels like the material's sticking to the side a little bit. So if I was cutting any bigger pieces, this would be a proper problem. Out of the box, I actually like this handle, the shape of this handle. It would have been nice if it was like a little bit rubberized or had something, maybe just like a softer plastic, something that's a little bit more forgiving in the hand than this hardened injection molded or cast or however this stuff's done material. But I mean, the actual shape of it, I can't complain at all. It swells in places that feel good to have a swell. And for me at least, it is fitting my hand very nicely. A little bit of a guard. You do have a choil, which is nice for sharpening. And I mean, at least they're thinking about how you're going to use this in the future, right? Because having a choil for sharpening this is probably your best bet right out the box in terms of making this thing more increasingly usable. No markings whatsoever on the blade, which is interesting and not very common. Personally, I would have liked to see a steel marking somewhere, but as far as we know, it is just unnamed stainless. It's not great, but the swedge is absolutely sharp enough to get some sparks out of a fire steel. Not the best sparks, but some. The jimps are sharper for sure, but I still think that your best bet is actually going to be back here, where you can like proper dig. Or if you have a fire steel small enough, the inside of that lanyard loop might be sharper than the outside. I can't say for sure. Okay, so far, this is like a 3 or a 4 out of 10 experience, a little bit below average. Strong 3, weak 4 kind of a deal. This is going to be the make or break moment that's going to either decide that I carry this for my week and then never touch it again, or actually bring this up every so often and give it like a good bones. So that's immediately a point against it. Why on earth? Everything inside of here should be angled so that I can't get my knife stuck. Okay, retention actually feels really good. So it's being held in place up here, near that sort of guard, fitting into these two holes. It does have a drain hole, and I always like it. I'm assuming, yeah, that's a drain hole. Yeah, that is a drain hole, which I do always like. It has a nice click. It takes a lot of pressure to break that hold, but it actually doesn't throw the, like, it's a good retention, a very solid feeling retention, but a very, very low sort of spring force to it. So it's very well snug in there, but it doesn't shoot the sheath off when you break that, which is different. I haven't experienced that on sheaths before, at least not the hard plastic type. And initial impressions, I kind of like it. I'm not going to lie. We have this sort of Morkinish J-style hook. These are actually really nice because they can go over the seam of a pocket or the waistband of a pair of pants. So they actually do stay no matter what you have. If you have a belt, they're even better, but they'll do that in general. The sheath, I think the sheath is a perfectly average 5 out of 10. It's nothing to write home about. It's different, which is good, but it's not different in a good or bad way. It's just different, which in turn makes it standard. Like, this is a 5 out of 10 sheath, and I'm going to go with a 4 out of 10 knife initial impressions. I am going to use this a little bit, put it through some of its paces, see how bad it sucks. With extended use, this hard plastic is going to get uncomfortable. There's no way around that, but I am curious to see what I think about it in a little bit. So I will be back now. And we are back. So it's only been about a week, and typically what I do for fixed blades is I just take them out for a couple days and do a massive variety of things. And that is what I tried to do with this guy. But to be honest, this was a rough experience. Yeah, so I'm going to start off with the positive, and then I'm going to get into all the problems I had with this fucking thing. To start off with, I actually do like the design and the profile overall. The handle ended up being a lot more comfortable than I expected. These jimps, despite not seeming like they'd be very effective, actually worked quite well. And just purely in terms of like the lines of this knife, it was fine, you know? Handle, easy to manipulate, easy to work with. It would have been nice to have a little bit of like a softer or a soft rubber overlay or overmolding on the handle, but even just for like a hard plastic handle, it didn't become uncomfortable. There's no real hot spots. A little bit back here, if you're moving the knife blade in your hand a lot, this sharp edge back here can get a little bit annoying, but it really isn't too bad. And I will always take the opportunity to scrape a fire steel off the back of a knife over having like perfectly rounded corners in the back. However, it's actually not sharpened on both sides. It's only sharpened on this side. This side here is very soft. Like, it's significantly, actually you can even see it a little bit. It's way more rounded over on that side versus this side where it's almost, it's not crisped, but it is, still has an edge to it, which is very bizarre. And that kind of thing is going to follow through in a lot of areas on this knife. It is poorly refined. Just little tiny things, like even back here on the spine, one side has a lot more of an edge than the other side. It's almost like they ran it through a soft wieldy roller on one side, but not on the other. The grind is very uneven, especially out here near the tip. It's way off, and like, yeah, for $26, maybe you shouldn't be able to expect more, but we live in a world where Morkiniv exists, and as long as you can get a Mora for under 20 bucks, $25 is unjustifiable for these types of simple mistakes. Hollow grind is fine. I mean, it's really short, but the blade stock thickness isn't very thick to begin with. Let's actually see what the blade stock thickness is. Yeah, 120 thousandths on the blade stock thickness. For a fixed blade, that's really not that much. And it wasn't brutal in terms of slicing. It's just the edge is shit. And the steel is bad. Alright, let's get into my number one complaint with this. So, we don't know what the blade steel is. However, what we do know is what the upgraded version of this blade steel is. So this is the Milwaukee Tradesman. They have a upgraded version of the Milwaukee Tradesman. The stainless steel upgraded version has a AUS 8 blade for like $80, which is over 3 times as much. So considering the fact that AUS 8 is definitely an entry-level steel, and on a fixed blade especially, I wouldn't expect an entry-level steel above $50. Even that's kind of pushing it. I wouldn't want one above like 30. So seeing that this is 3 times less expensive than AUS 8, I'm very concerned for the edge, and it did not hold up for anything. Like, I can literally strop this on the palm of my hand and bring back a better edge than it came from factory, which is beyond brutal. I didn't chop this into anything, but you can see how badly the edge rolled over just cutting through bark on trees. Like, even up here near the tip has a little bit more of an excuse because I did do some throwing with this, which is going to get into the one and only use case I feel that this knife actually has. But the edge is a little bit more of an excuse, but down here near the belly, it chipped to, well, it rolled really and truly, and then it's just rough. Like, it's soft, it's aggressively soft, it does not hold an edge, it doesn't really take a decent edge. The steel on this leaves a great amount to be desired. And then they put this weird finish on it that, like, everything sticks to you. You can even see, like, the rubber marks from my out of the box cutting test there, and, like, absolutely everything sticks to this. It sucks. And, like, if you want to clean it off, well, one, you're spending more time than this knife is worth, quite frankly, but you have to get it out of this, like, sort of blasted finish, so you got to get, like, soap and get in there and dig in there, and it's just a whole mess, and it doesn't make any sense to put that, like, just leave it polished or satin, and you will have significantly less of these issues. This finish is, like, absorbing grime and just making things ugly, and that, on a more cared for knife, that can be not a horrible thing because the blast finish is better done, but this blast finish just isn't well done. It feels grabby, and that sucks cutting through material. For like that's all I have to say about it. It is rough for cutting through material. I would not want to use this on a job site where I might be cutting through, like, styrofoam or anything that, like, has a little bit of stick to it. Tape, oh man, tape would just love this. It's rough. Cutting cardboard or anything like that wasn't too bad. I mean, it dulled like you wouldn't believe, but that's pretty much what you did expect. Yeah, the only thing that I found that this wasn't the worst in the world at was throwing. If you're somebody who wants to learn how to throw non-throwing knives, hunting knives, asymmetric knives, something like this can be desirable because there's a good chance you'll damage it when you're learning, and it doesn't matter that much because it's like $25. Replacing it is not a huge deal. The handle's nice. I like the handle. The blade shape is nice. The lines are okay. I would have preferred a taller flat grind than a shorter hollow grind, but that could just be me. Swedge is fine, but all the details on this are rough. And the steel, I can't get over the steel. Like, that's ridiculous to me. Ignoring the knife itself for a second, I actually kind of like the sheath. I didn't think I would right at the start, but it has really good retention. It's easy to put the knife into, especially when it's, like, on your belt, because you can just tap, and it's sort of like a fluted magazine well, because of the fact that it takes some of the handle in. As long as the tip of your blade is anywhere in here, you just kind of angle it and then give it a tap, and we're good, which is, I like it. I think that's a really nice way of doing a hard plastic sheath. Retention is good. Getting it out is easy. J-style, well, kind of, this hook style you can put on and off your belt without having to take your belt off, which is nice for a work knife, but this is kind of disappointing, which is rough because, I mean, I wanted to like it. I like all the lines of it, but the knife itself, the execution of the knife itself is just hard to get over. Yeah, for the money, get a Morkniv. Honestly, even a Holsfor, I've had rough experiences with Holsfor, but even a Holsfor I think would be better than this on average. Yeah, I can't recommend this to anybody. Stay safe and have fun out there. Peace.